Hello everybody, I'm Jackie K. Cooper, and my entertainment rundown for today is another double feature. This time we've got a movie called The Pale Door and another one called The Tax Collectors. Now, I know people, see these movie reviews and think, my gosh, he's lucky. All he does is watch movies. That must be the greatest job in the world. Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. I love movies. Love everything about them. But every once in a while, you have to sit through some clunkers. And let me tell you, The Pale Door is a clunker. It is a movie about, a group of outlaws who rob a train. They hear there's something really valuable on the train, and so they're on their horses. They ride up. They cause the train to halt, and the main guy and his band of fellow outlaws go looking for. They think they're going to get all kind of money because it's so well guarded, etc. But then they find out that what's being guarded is not what they thought it was. And there's, a shootout, and then they head off, with their prize, so to speak, and wander into a town, kind of a frontier town, and there only seem to be women in the town. And come to find out, it is a coven of witches. So now all of that sounds like, that could be pretty interesting. No, it is bare props. I don't know how much money they had for a budget to spend on this film, but I felt like every building was just a facade, propped up. Walk in the door and there's nothing inside. The cast really surprised me because one of the main female stars is a woman named Melora Walters, and she has been in some major movies that I have seen. And why she would attach herself to a film this slipshod and poorly made is beyond me. Zachary Knighton is another one. I've seen him in other movies. He's a capable actor. Maybe there are just hard times in the movie industry these days. Stan Shaw, man, I've seen over the years. He's been around for quite some time now, and I've seen his career evolve. Again, got messed up with this group. The story idea was not so bad, but the presentation of it was just horrific. The dialogue is stilted. It looked like they hired locals to play, some of the roles. Some of the people looked like they'd never seen a camera before. They just kind of ambled through one scene after the other. And then when the whole thing is over with, you think, what was that for? What was the point of the film? It's bloody and gory at a point. It goes wild, not being, but then it really opens up, and there is some suspense because of the witches and what they're plotting to do, etc. The main story is the main outlaw. He's trying to protect his younger brother. That's Zachary Knighton. He's trying to protect his younger brother, played by David Druid, and he don't want him to end up in a life of crime and following him. I mean, that's just a sub story, but that's just nothing in this movie. It's just presented out there, and that's all there is. The film isn't rated, but it would probably get an R rating because there is profanity, there's violence, and there is nudity. But there's nothing that just holds you to the film. If I hadn't been reviewing it, I don't know if I would have made it to the end or not, because it just didn't hold my attention. It didn't have a cohesive plot. It there were big gaps of questions that were left in my mind. That ended up with me giving it a big 2 out of 10. That was it. Melora Walters, that's 1 point for her. Zachary Knighton, that's 1 point for him. So, they got 2 out of 10. But The Pale Door, it pales in comparison to anything entertainment-wise. It just wasn't a fun movie to see. So I was glad when I was able to reach the end of that movie and reach for the next one, which was a film called The Tax Collectors. And what drew me to this one, I thought, again, like I'd seen Melora Walters and Zachary Knighton in the previous movie, this one has Shia LaBeouf. And I thought, he's usually interesting. And it's him and an actor named Bobby Soto. And also George Lopez is in the film. But it's about L.A. and a man. He's married. He's got 2 children. He is the collector for his gang, mob, whatever you want to call it. But he goes out and he has a listing of drug dealers and other operators in his area, and they have to pay a tax to him because he offers protection. And so he goes his day, and his main number 1 man is called Creeper, and that's the character that Shia LaBeouf plays, and the main guy is played by Bobby Soto. But the first half of the movie is showing David, Bobby Soto, at home. He's a very religious family. Teaching his children, right and wrong. His wife is very much involved in his life, and then he goes out with Creeper, Shia LaBeouf, to make his collections, and this goes on for half of the movie. One of them, his main benefactors, is played by George Lopez, and so he has a scene with him, and it's just the established, societal, establishment or status of these people that they're the guardians, and these are the ones who are protected, and then they do whatever it is that they do to make a living. But of course, in a movie like this, at some point, someone else decides that they're going to take over, and become the ones who collect the tax. And in order to do that, they have to eradicate David and his whole crew. And that's in the second half of the movie. And that's where all of the action and violence and everything appears. That's where that goes. Shia LaBeouf, his performance in this movie is very low-key. Doesn't show a lot of acting talent. You don't really get into the character. Bobby Soto has a much more dynamic role. His wife is played by Cynthia Carmona, a very beautiful woman, and she really establishes the role and her portion in the film. But the film itself is, it's you've got the bad guys, and then you've got the worst guys. So there's no, good guys versus the bad guys. You've got the bad guys versus the worst guys. So from that standpoint, there's nothing to hold on to as far as watching the film. You don't even realize it. I guess you're rooting for the bad guys and wanting them to escape and whatever, go back to their lives that they had. But it's confusing and it's muddled, and it really gets bogged down. The film is rated R for profanity, nudity, and violence. That earns the R rating. I scored it 3 out of 10. This was not a good time at the movies either. I just couldn't get into the plot. I kept waiting for that one performance that would kind of lift it up and make something out of the movie that was never there. So disappointment reigned. So I scored it 3 out of 10. So this double feature, we had The Pale Door getting a score of 2, The Tax Collectors getting a score of 3. Anyway, I'm telling you like it is. Reach down there, hit the subscribe button. We want you to learn about the good, the bad, and the ugly at the movies, and I'll always sell it to you straight. But for today, this has been Jackie K. Cooper's Entertainment Rundown with reviews of The Pale Door and The Tax Collectors.